There is a war happening right now, a real war with bombs, blockades, and dead soldiers. And the man trying to stop it is not from America, not from Europe, not from the United Nations. He is a Pakistani general, and he is sitting in Tehran today carrying a secret message from Donald Trump. This is not a drill. This is not a theory. This is what is actually happening on April 16th, 2026. And most people have absolutely no idea. Let me break down everything. What started this? What failed? What Pakistan is doing right now? And what is about to happen in the next 6 days? On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a military strike on Iran. Not a warning, not a sanction, a strike. The war that analysts had been predicting for 20 years had finally begun. The United States and Israel hit Iranian military and nuclear sites. Iran fired back, not just at Israel and American bases in the Middle East, but at Saudi Arabia and Gulf nations as well. Within days, the conflict had expanded across the region. Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which about 20% of the world's oil passes, was thrown into chaos. Both the US and Iran set up competing naval blockades. Shipping companies panicked. Oil prices exploded. The global economy began feeling the pain within weeks. Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei was killed during this conflict. This was a seismic moment. The man who had led the Islamic Republic for over 3 decades was gone. Tehran went into shock. The streets of Tehran were not celebratory. They were tense, angry, and afraid. Back in Pakistan, something else was happening. Protests erupted in Karachi. Pakistani Shia Muslims, estimated at 15 to 20% of Pakistan's 250 million people, took to the streets. On March 1st, demonstrators tried to storm the U.S. consulate in Karachi. At least 10 people were killed when police tried to disperse the crowd. April 11th, 2026, Islamabad, Pakistan. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif shook hands with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and guided him to a seat. On the other side of the table sat Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, leading the Iranian delegation. For the first time since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, American and Iranian officials were sitting face to face in direct negotiations, not through back channels, not through intermediaries passing notes, face to face. And it lasted 21 hours. 21 hours of talks stretching through the night. The world held its breath. Then, on Sunday, April 12th, J.D. Vance walked out of the building, stood in front of cameras, and said, "The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran, much more than it's bad news for the United States." He said Iran chose not to accept our terms. He said the U.S. needs a fundamental commitment from Tehran not to develop nuclear weapons. He called it Washington's final and best offer. And then he flew home. So what exactly broke the deal? The nuclear question. The U.S. is not just asking Iran to pause its nuclear program. It is asking Iran to completely abandon it. Every centrifuge, every gram of enriched uranium, not even for medical purposes, not even for peaceful energy. Total dismantlement. Iran's position is the opposite. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said Tehran is open to discussing the type and level of uranium enrichment, but that Iran must be able to continue enrichment based on its needs. That is a non-negotiable for Tehran. Between zero nuclear program and we will continue enrichment, there is a sea. And 21 hours of talks could not cross it. Iran's foreign ministry, however, said something important after the talks collapsed. They said no one had such an expectation of reaching a deal in one session. They said diplomatic contacts with Pakistan is walking a tightrope that few countries have ever attempted. On one hand, it is the neutral mediator, trusted by both Washington and Tehran, carrying messages, hosting talks, and keeping the channel alive. On the other hand, Pakistan has Pakistani military forces stationed at King Abdulaziz Air Base in Saudi Arabia, a country that Iran repeatedly attacked before the ceasefire. Under the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement signed last year, Pakistan is militarily committed to defend Saudi Arabia. A former Pakistani 3-star general put it clearly: Pakistan can hold both roles only if deployment remains strictly defensive, time-bound, and transparently limited. The moment the theater shifts to offensive operations, the dual role collapses. Iran knows Pakistani troops are in Saudi Arabia. Iran is watching. Iran's perception of Pakistan's neutrality is the foundation of this entire mediation. If that perception breaks, the mediation ends. So what happens next? 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, a deal is made. Munir's mission in Tehran succeeds. Iran agrees to come back to Islamabad for a second round of talks. The ceasefire is extended past April 22. Talks continue. Over days or weeks, a framework emerges. Perhaps Iran agrees to cap enrichment at civilian levels in exchange for sanctions relief and a U.S. withdrawal from the naval blockade. This is the outcome Pakistan is working toward. It is possible, but fragile. Scenario 2. Talks continue without a deal. The ceasefire is extended, but no agreement is reached. Both sides keep talking. The naval blockades continue at reduced intensity. The global economy keeps bleeding. This is the gray zone. Unstable, but not catastrophic. It could go on for...
On Wednesday, April 15th, Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir flew to Tehran. He was received by Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. A photograph was released. Munir in military uniform. Araghchi welcoming him warmly. Araghchi publicly said he was very pleased to welcome Munir and reaffirmed Iran's commitment to promoting peace and stability in the region. Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi also joined the delegation in Tehran. What are they discussing? The delegation is carrying a new message directly from Washington. The goal is to find a pathway, any pathway, on the uranium enrichment question that both sides can live with, because that is the wall. Sources close to the mediation told Al Jazeera, "It looks like there is some agreement in the making." But they were cautious. They said there are detractors on all sides. In Tehran, hardliners who do not want any deal with America. In Washington, officials who want Iran crushed, not negotiated with. And the biggest detractor of all, according to Pakistani sources, Israel. Israel, which does not want a peace deal and wants the war to continue. Israel, which struck Iran alongside the U.S. and sees a nuclear-free Iran under pressure as the only acceptable outcome. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson confirmed before Munir arrived that Tehran had no fresh proposal ready, which means Munir arrived not to receive Iran's counteroffer, but to convince Iran to come back to the table at all. The specific question being worked on: can Iran and the U.S. find a middle ground on enrichment? Can Iran agree to enrich at a lower level, say under 5% for civilian energy, while stopping short of weapons-grade enrichment